What was, like, an average day being in the community like?
Yeah, just an average day through the week, Monday through Friday. We got up every single morning, 7 days a week at 4:30. That's when we heard the broom handle from mom, hitting the register on we all of us boys, there's 10 of us, 10 siblings, 2 sets of twins, I'm a twin. So there was 10 of us total. We had to get up at 4:30 when we heard that broom handle, and then we had to be up and milking cows by 5 AM. I mean, that was the rule, so we were always I had 2 cows assigned to me. Now it was no electric milkers, it was all by hand. So we would milk the cows first, and we had each had I had the hog barn. One of my other brothers had the cow barn. I mean, every one of these animals, we had 300 rabbits, chickens, you name it, we had them all. So once all the animals were fed, that's when we would meet back in the house. The women stayed in the house. Mom and my sisters, they would make a big, large breakfast. And then at the breakfast table, when everybody's sitting around the table eating, that's when Dad would lay down the plans for each individual that has to go do their assignment. Working in the field plowing. One of us was sent into the community to do a barn raising. So that was our daily, activity until dark. It was always dark to dark. You work, 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 and then in the evening you come back home. You milk the cows again because the cows always had to be milked twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. And then the dinner table, or the dinner table in the evening. That's when we talked about the community and what happened, and our everything that played out during the day. Everybody communicated that, and then when you were done, it's time for go to bed. There was never no video games, no electricity, no television. There was nothing that would make us bored. It was just a full day of work, work, work.
Okay, what about school? No school?
That was between September through April. That's when we went to school, but only until 8th grade. So that in that season, we would go to school at 9 AM and come back out at 3 PM is when we would head back home and then milk but the cows had to be milked before school, and the cows had to be milked after school. So during those school years, which is only 8 years long, and then you graduate and you're into the workforce.
Wow. Workforce at what, 13, 14 years old?
14
Interesting.
years of age is when I was graduated, yeah.
Yeah, and how'd you guys spend, I guess, your weekends? Like, what did not working look like and having free time on the weekends?
Well, Sundays was always assigned as a holy day. You don't spend money on Sunday. You don't work on Sunday. Clearly, the cows was an emergency that they had to be milked or they would get an infection. So they had to be milked and all the animals had to be fed. But outside of that, no work is to be done on Sunday. Now, Saturday was the busiest day of the whole week. That is when all the kids were home from school. And that's when if there was a barn raising or some kind of event in the community, that would be the day that would be planned because all hands were on deck. And so Saturday sometimes was one of the busiest days within the community when there's auctions, barn raisings, quilting. The women did a lot of quilting where they made homemade quilts for fundraising for the church, stuff like that. So it was a really, really busy day on Saturday.
Hmm. And when it comes to, rules, what were some of the most challenging rules amongst the Amish community to follow?
I would say the dress code rules were probably the trickiest because I saw my dad just always, have a hiccup here and there with dress code, especially in the summertime. The summertime is just brutally hot, and Dad would roll his window or his sleeves a little bit above his elbow, and so he would get in trouble for that. We were not allowed to show any skin above the elbow. So if you roll it up too high, and then your top collar, I got in trouble for the top button. There's 3 buttons on a homemade shirt. The top one we left open because we wanted some air. Well, you couldn't do that. The dress code rule was you go all the way up. You can't have a lay down collar like those worldly people. So you had to be all the way up underneath your neck. So a lot of the dress code is always what we got in trouble for. And then if you say some different words that are not supposed to be said, curse words and swearing, there's some German words that were sometimes coming out of your mouth when you got angry. So that can get you in trouble too. But it was just a variety of different things you can get shunned for.
Is that what you guys called people outside of the Amish community, worldly people?
Every single person that was not Amish, we considered as worldly people, yes.
Interesting, because that's how usually how a Christian would refer to a non-Christian.
Yep. Yeah, we considered them English because they spoke English. We were German-speaking people, but we always said the English worldly people. That was the phrase we would use to identify you guys.
Yeah. What was your guys', I guess, your idea of these worldly people? What did you think of them as people? Did you think they were just below you, or what were your guys' ideas of that?
Yeah, we clearly thought they were below us because we were born and raised to believe that we were the special chosen people. If you look in the Bible and see kind of how the Jews, the Pharisees were back in those days, that's kind of how we were. We were like, hey, God will favor us because we're the remnant that cuts ourselves off from the world. We are called in the Bible to be different from the world. And so we are the special chosen people that don't have cars and electricity and television and worldly conveniences. And so we're special. So when you're programmed that way since innocent childhood, I believe that. I mean, when mom and dad said, hey, we do business with those worldly people because that's how we make money. We work for them, we sell stuff to them, but we can never get to heaven because they can't get to heaven because they're not us. They're not Amish. So we were clearly programmed to believe that that is not capable, that lifestyle is not capable of entering heaven, even though they're nice, friendly, smiling, loving people. We do business with them, they still couldn't make it to heaven because they have all those sinful, so to speak, sinful things of the world, electricity and the modern day stuff.
Is your family still in it?
Yes, oh yeah, most of 'em I only got one brother that left, yeah, the rest of them are all still Amish.
Do you guys still keep in contact?
Uh, I'm going out tomorrow evening to see her because I got word back that she did wanna see me one more time, but she had previously said, "Don't ever come back out to see me again since you given yourself over to the world, and don't come to my funeral when I die." Well, one of my followers bought eggs from her and I sent him the text message, he read it off to her. I guess she wants me back one more time, and that's gonna happen tomorrow night, so we're gonna see how that goes, but normally, when you give yourself over to a different lifestyle, they don't want you back, it's considered shunning.
Wow, so how are you feeling about that since it's I mean, you said it's tomorrow. What are your emotions
Yeah,
feeling?
I'm a little nervous about it because it could go one of 2 ways. It could be a repentant heart, a softer, loving tone, and I hope that's it. Or it could be a harsher where, "Hey, I heard that you wrote that book and told on the Amish church," 'cause I'm the author of a book now called Undeceived, so she clearly gets the word about what I'm doing, and I'm afraid that might be the angle she's gonna take is, "Hey, why'd you say all this? Why'd you expose the church?" Because her daddy, my grandpa, was the main bishop, and in my book, I expose all that stuff, the evils within the church that is hidden and shoved under the rug. I talk about all of it, so, I have a feeling maybe she's wanting to dive into that and really go at me, so we'll see how it goes. I'm clearly gonna do a video and share my experience how it goes tomorrow night.
Yeah, I hope that goes well, and how many times have you seen her since you've left?
I used to go out 1 time per year with my Amish clothing on, parking my car next door until she said on her birthday last year, 2024, that, "Don't you ever come back out." Me and my wife were both there, and my wife heard it, and she said, "Don't ever come back out." She learned that I was starting to educate the outside world on my platforms, on my podcast, about what the Amish did and what happened to my daddy and all of that, and she was disapproving of that. She didn't That's how the Amish church preserves what they do. They're secretive, they don't let all those things from the church and how they operate and the shunning and all of that, they don't let that stuff out, so since I was talking about that, she said, "Do not come back out ever in my lifetime," and then out of nowhere, about a year later after saying that, she's saying, "Hey, come out one more time."
Yeah, because from an outside perspective, and I think outsiders that I know would also relate to this, people kind of view the Amish community as something that's actually pretty innocent. And it sounds like in your experience and based on the fact that you wrote a book, there is a lot of wickedness that does happen. Can you dive into that for us?
Yeah, I was, really severely physically abused, my all of my siblings could attest to that, they were also physically abused, it was not fun, did I feel like I could get help by calling the 911? No. Sheriff, all of the police officers, those were worldly people. We thought it was very sinful to report crimes to the outside the Amish church because the leadership is considered, the top level. That's who you report things to. So when dad did things that were bad or if there was incest in the church takes care of all that. Forget and forgive. That's the 2 big ones. Forget and forgive. And if a victim brings those things back up, the victim can get harsher punishment, longer weeks of shunning than the perpetrator himself. So you can see how that's kind of how they keep everything hush hush and make it go away by teaching it that way. Because they believe if a victim brings it back up, then you're not forgiven. So the church keeps all of that hush hush. And by the way, a lot of the former Amish that are coming out, they're starting to talk about this stuff. You see them on podcasts, you see them writing books like I did, and it's starting to make more awareness evidence now of how the Amish church is able to hide this stuff and make it go away because they're forgiving people for crimes that if you were out here in the non-Amish world, you could get potentially life in prison. I mean, it's some pretty dark stuff.